Would you believe me if I told you that an Aries ascendant person having his ascendant lord, that is the Lagna lord Mars, exalted in the 10th house, and Saturn, the planet of longevity, the planet of delay, and the Karaka of the 8th house, placed in his 8th house itself, giving a promise of a long lifespan, has actually worked in a different way, and this person has died at the age of 20 years. So, this is where the fundamental rules of astrology need to be studied and understood, and also you need to build your own personal understanding and theory, alright, about how planets exchange energies, alright. So, this is a very serious video. In this video, I am going to talk about the power of the dispositors in astrology, how a dispositor, that is the lord of the sign where a planet is placed, impacts its results and influence its results in a good or bad way, number one. And second thing is that I am going to explain how planets placed in the Rashi, that is planets placed in the zodiac sign of a particular planet, also influence its dispositor. So, it is not only that a planet is dependent to give results upon its dispositor, but the planet which is placed in the sign of a particular planet is also impacting that particular planet. For example, here in this case, this is the chart of an Aries ascendant, guys, and in this chart, if you see, the ascendant lord Mars is placed in the 10th house in conjunction with the planet Rahu in the sign of Capricorn. So, the Capricorn sign is ruled by the planet Saturn, alright. Now, where is the planet Saturn? The planet Saturn has gone to the 8th house, alright. So, it has gone 11 places forward and it has gone to the 8th house in the sign of Scorpio, alright. So, the results of Mars and Rahu depend on how good or bad Saturn is acting in this chart, but the result of Saturn is also dependent upon the energy injection of Mars and Rahu inside the sign of Capricorn. So, Mars and Rahu are sort of making Saturn to behave like Mars and Rahu. So, Saturn is changing its fundamental nature and quality, and instead of becoming like Saturn, it is trying to give the results of Mars and Rahu, alright. So, we are going to talk about dispositor, we are going to talk about aspects, we are going to talk about conjunction, we are also going to talk about something which has, I think, never been explained to such detail. So, here in this chart, this guy who has got Mars, the Lagna lord, exalted, the Lagna lord which is supposed to be the giver of health, the giver of vitality, and also because it is the 8th lord exalted, so it is the giver of longevity as well, Ayu, is exalted, but it is afflicted because it is conjunct with Rahu, and the lord of the 10th, which is Saturn, which is the significator and the Karaka of the 8th house, has gone to the 8th house, and this guy expired because of some unforeseen circumstances at the age of 20. Can you believe that? Can this happen? Yes, it has happened. Alright. What has happened in this chart is that first, the exchange of energy between Mars, Rahu and Saturn, alright. Here you are seeing that it is written Saturn. Yes, the planet Saturn is placed here in Scorpio, of course, but Mars and Rahu, here they are injecting their energy into the sign of Capricorn, guys. So, now when they are injecting their energy into the sign of Capricorn, it means slowly this Saturn is becoming like Mars Rahu, alright, and slowly this Mars Rahu is turning into Saturn. That is what a parivartan is. So, if you see the red marker, it is going from here and it is trying to make Saturn into Mars. Rahu is going inside and is trying to make Saturn as Rahu, and Saturn is going in the blue line and is making Mars and Rahu into Saturn, alright. So, because of the parivartan and also because of the injection of Martian and Rahu energy into Capricorn has turned the tables. So, what has happened is that the fundamental nature and qualities of Mars and Saturn have got interchanged in this chart, alright. So, Saturn, instead of being in the 8th house, consider Mars Rahu to be in the 8th house. Now, this is way beyond general astrology, but you have to understand, this is way beyond the pay grade of common people, but you have to understand that Mars and Rahu have become like Saturn. So, here instead of Saturn, forget the Saturn and write Mars and Rahu here, alright. Mars and Rahu are not good in the 8th house because Mars gives accident, Mars gives sudden warlike situation, sudden fights and unexpected transformation when it is placed in the 8th house. Alright. So what has happened is that Mars Rahu placed in the 8th house has spoiled the 8th house, spoiled the longevity, spoiled the Ayu of the person. But still Saturn in the 10th house gives good Ayu, right? But what happened is that this Mars changed and became Saturn, but the aspects remain the same. So Saturn, which is the clone of Mars, which is formed like Mars, has aspected the ascendant, the debilitation sign of Saturn, with its 4th aspect. Usually Saturn has 3rd aspect, but here Mars has become into Saturn. So Mars will not lose its aspect qualities, it will continue to aspect with its 4th aspect. But because it is looking at its debilitation sign Aries, the 4th aspect of Saturn, which is actually Mars, which has changed like Saturn, is aspecting the ascendant Aries with its debilitation sign, because of which the health, the vitality and the significations of the first house got damaged. Alright. Now what is happening? Saturn, it is placed in the 8th house, and Saturn's aspect, that is the Rahu Mars aspect, the 10th aspect of Saturn, is falling in the sign of Leo. Alright. Leo is ruled by Sun, and Sun represents the vitality. Alright. It represents the strength of the Atman. Alright. Here Saturn has injected its energy into Leo. Indirectly Rahu Mars has afflicted Leo. So when Rahu Mars have afflicted the sign of Leo, it has afflicted the sign of the dispositor Sun also. So Sun, which is a benefic planet for an Aries ascendant, has become polluted and corrupt by the aspect of Rahu and Mars, which is placed in the 8th house because of the parivartan. Alright. You see this video and repeat, you will be able to understand. Alright. So the 5th lord got compromised. The ascendant, because of the debilitation aspect of Saturn from the 10th, which is actually Rahu Mars behaving like Saturn, has compromised the ascendant. Alright. And the 9th lord, Jupiter, which has to be a benefic planet, it has gone into the 6th house of disputes and problem. And if you look at the dispositor of Jupiter, Mercury, Mercury is again afflicted by malefic Sun, which is acting under the influence of Rahu and Mars. Okay. Now what about Moon? You can say that Moon is placed in the Kendra and Moon is protecting the chart. But Saturn is aspecting Moon. Rahu Mars, which has become like Saturn, Saturn is aspecting Moon. So Saturn aspect over Moon is Vishyog. You all know that. Alright. And Ketu's 5th aspect is a very separative aspect. It detaches you from the particular sign attributes or the particular house attributes. Ketu 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is putting the 5th aspect of detachment to the 8th house of longevity, and it is also aspecting Saturn. Indirectly it is aspecting Rahu and Mars. So because of these factors, alright, the person couldn't survive beyond 20 years. Alright. So this is very unfortunate, but this is the depth of astrology where the power of dispositors impact. So what you need to see is that, first of all, you need to see the condition of the dispositor, point number 1. Second, you need to see the planets in the sign of the dispositor. In this case, Rahu and Mars is in Capricorn, as I explained before. Then you have to see planets aspecting the dispositor. Alright. Which are the planets that are aspecting the dispositor? Ketu is aspecting the dispositor. Alright. Then you have to see conjunction of planets with it. Alright. What are the planets conjunct with it? Here, let's say for example, Moon is conjunct with Ketu. Mars is conjunct with Rahu. So Moon and Mars, which are the important planets for an Aries ascendant, are under the influence of the top class malefics Ketu and Rahu. Alright. And the interconnection of aspect, Moon aspecting Mars, Mars aspecting Moon, Saturn placed in the 10th house, which is actually Mars Rahu but taken the shape of Saturn, is aspecting Moon. So it is damaging the chart, and that's why death at the inevitable age of 20 years. Alright. So whenever you assess a chart, whenever you are doing a reading, don't only look at exaltation and debilitation and own sign. Own sign is fine because the planet is, dependent upon its own nature and energy. Alright. And you have to look at the nakshatra level, the nakshatra dispositor. But when it is placed in exaltation, when it is placed in friendly sign, look at the condition of the friend. Look if malefics are aspecting the friend. Look if there is a parivartan, and if there is a parivartan, if the parivartan is happening in those houses where the planet becomes debilitated. For example, let's say Sun is placed here in Aries, but Mars is placed in Libra. So Mars having its placement in Libra, the dispositor of Sun, so consider Sun to be debilitated because the dispositor of Sun, Mars, which is ruling Aries, has fallen into the 7th house and it has got debilitated. Alright, so that's the depth of astrology. So I hope you like this video. If you want to understand more such deep concept in astrology, then please subscribe to Purab's Universe. If you don't want to learn new things or the weird things that I bring out in astrology, then you can unsubscribe or dislike this video. Alright, so I hope this video enlightened you. This is Purab signing off from Purab's Universe. Take care of yourself, take care of the elderly people, and take care of the stray animals around you. Adios, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.